I ever brainwashed myself was to get girls. And I used the first two techniques here, logos and mental rehearsals. So this was no ordinary girl, man. She was special. I was walking down the central atrium of my big library building in my university, and I see this girl in the corner of my eye. She had red hair which caught my attention. She was wearing green, moss green, which is my favorite color. So immediately I was interested. I saw her. She was wearing gold rimmed glasses, which I think the glint of that is what caught my eye in the first place. She had like a gold and jade locket on, and she was drop dead gorgeous. She kind of looked Irish. She had the perfect physique. It was kind of fall season, so she was wearing the fall, the kind of things which girls wear during the fall. She looked like a work of art, all right? And I was very desirous, ravenous. I was desirous of going and talking to her. Well, I was desirous of a little bit more than that, but let's keep it family friendly, all right? So I take a step. I'm going towards her. And immediately, there's an objection in my mind. She's busy. Like, she's plugged in. Like, she has her AirPods on. She has her laptop in front of her. She's clearly intent on whatever she's doing. Like, I couldn't go and, interrupt her. Maybe she's taking the quiz, right? Maybe she's listening to a lecture from her professor, right? I shouldn't go and talk to her right now. She's not receptive. I also see there's people milling around. So it's objection number two. There's people, these like nerds who are going to listen to my conversation. If I try to pull any moves, like everybody's going to know, everybody's going to hear it. It's going to be kind of cringe, so I don't really want that. And I take another step, even despite the objection, and a third objection appears in my mind. She probably has a boyfriend. A girl like that is not going to be single for very long. She probably is taken, and I could put in all this risk and effort and everything, and there would be no point because she's obviously going to be taken. Put another step forward, still walking towards her. She's this close. Her table, and like she's working on her laptop, and I just walk past her. I want you to remember this phrase: rejection is always better than regret. I walk past her, and I keep walking along. I go to my classes. I'm still thinking about this chick, and I do my classes. I'm walking the opposite direction. But when I'm walking the opposite direction, I see her computer screen. She's not busy. She's not doing a quiz. She's on Netflix. She's just distracted like everybody else. So immediately my first objection is proven to be false by direct observation. And I realize maybe the second and third objections are also incorrect. So I analyze this. Right? I'm looking at it logically. Like, there's people around and they are going to hear, but if the price to pay is a bunch of dweebs listening in, that's a price that I'm willing to pay. If all that's standing behind me and banging this girl's brains out is a bunch of onlookers who are probably not even going to remember me the next day, then I'm willing to pay that price any day, right? I'm willing to pay that price. So second objection is immediately destroyed. Third objection is she has a boyfriend, but I don't know that. I don't know if she has a boyfriend. Why am I placing an objection in front of myself which I don't even know to be true? For all I know, she could be receptive. Maybe she's single. I don't know, and I shouldn't be putting a defeat in front of myself before I even make an attempt. So I was like, okay, I don't even have any objections anymore. I have to talk to her. But even so, my body doesn't cooperate. I am not able to go and speak to this chick. And I sit down, and I'm like, okay, I'm going to practice this before I go. So in my mind, I'm visualizing how this is going to play out, like the entire scenario. I walk up to her, pull the chair, and I'm like, hey, is this seat taken? She's probably going to say, no, it's not taken. Go ahead. So I'll sit down. I'll pull out my laptop, act like I'm doing something. Thank you. What's your name? And she would say her name. And she can do one of two things. She could just continue her work, in which case she's either not interested at all or she's actually busy and I should leave her alone. Fine. Or she could say, and what's yours? That means she's in. That means, one, she's willing to be distracted, and two, she's either attracted or at least curious. And I'll take that, right? I'll take that any day. So that was my objective. That was my mission parameters. So I do exactly as I rehearsed. I walk up, pull the chair, ask if I can sit down. She says yes. I ask her what's her name. Avery, she says. And what's yours? She says it in a kind of cheerful and girly kind of way. I'm in. It's already a success. I'm already meeting 100% of mission parameters. I've already won. I don't care at that point. I genuinely didn't care What happens in that conversation, whether I get her number or not, it doesn't matter. I've already done what I said I would do. Using the power of mental rehearsal and logos. So I'm going to explain these in autistic level detail so that you can actually use them in real life. But perhaps you want me to finish the story. So I talked to this chick, and this girl has girl game. So just as we as men have a certain level of charisma and game when we talk to girls, right? She had the girl's equivalent of this. She didn't need it. She was drop dead gorgeous, and she didn't need any kind of social skills to be more attractive. I don't even know if she could be more attractive. She was kind of pale skin, but her lips were still, bright and attractive. She had green eyes, moss green eyes, which is my favorite color. Like I said, she was playing with her locket, she was playing with her hair. Her voice was a little bit high pitched. She was doing that thing which girls do when they're kind of interested. They'll kind of bunch their shoulders and kind of move side to side. She was doing that. She was telling me about herself. Our conversation was objectively not flirtation. If you just look at the words, we were just speaking about, future goals and like all kind of banal, lame stuff. But it was in the eye contact. Flirtation, the only difference between flirtation and a conversation is the eye contact and body language. Of course, that might be a topic for a different video, like how do you actually talk to girls and everything. But fine, let's leave that for a different video, right? So I talked to this girl, get her number. If I did that today, like with what I know now, I would go for the same day date, 100% of the time, easy. But I went for the number, which was fine. Got her number, and I should say this. Don't go for the Insta. Go for the number rather than Insta unless you have more than 5,000 followers on Insta. If you have more than 5,000, it means that you have some clout and it actually might help build up her attraction. But if not, go for the number. It's more direct. It's just more sexual. Instagram is kind of androgynous. Guys ask guys for their Insta. Girls ask girls for their Insta. It's not necessarily intimate. The phone number is necessarily intimate. So go for the phone number 100% of the time unless you're actually famous on Insta. It's starting to rain here, which is fine. I've done stuff in rain before, that's for sure. So that's mental rehearsal and logos. Let's run through the autistic level steps. And speaking of which, after the date, I will just say that she's a very loving girl. Let's leave it at that. She's a very loving individual. It didn't work out long term because like this girl, like she had a notch count on her, and she was one of those girls who had the popular on Tinder badge. So like she wasn't the right girl for a long-term relationship. But I have no regrets whatsoever. All right. So let's just leave it at that and go into the actual actionable steps. So the first technique I told you was logos. Logos is a technique to use against limiting beliefs. So first you need to isolate and detect limiting beliefs. What you do is whenever you have something that you want to pursue, but you don't pursue it because of some reason, analyze what that reason is. That reason is a limiting belief. You use logic to analyze the belief. Is this actually objectively true, or is it something which I'm making up, or something which I've picked up along the course of my life? Most of the time, it's going to be the latter. And anybody can fall into this trap. Hamza is somebody which you and I both respect. He had a limiting belief about money. He thought that if he sold something, he would lose his audience. Not the case. He's still growing, people love him, and he's making a hell lot of money. I had a limiting belief about sleep. I thought that I was an insomniac. Turns out that I could not fall asleep if I had an unproductive day. And because I was at that phase of my life, I was unproductive basically every day, I didn't get sleep. And so, analyze your beliefs, destroy them, see if they're actually true. I was abusing melatonin for years up to that point. I realized that melatonin is not actually good for you and I should stop. I was like, am I actually an insomniac, or is it something which I've made up in my mind? And because I realized it was something I made up in my mind, I was able to destroy it. That's logos. The second technique is mental rehearsals. Mental rehearsals are kind of what I described in that story, acting out the thing that you're going to do in the mind before you actually do it. And to do this, you're using your eye, the eye of your mind, basically, the mind's eye. And I'll prove to you that you have a mind's eye. All right, I want you to visualize this, imagine this. It's raining right now. I kind of like it. I like the rain. Imagine it's raining, all right? It's a dark and stormy night. And there's an old man. He's bundled up in his robes. He's feeling cold. His bones are achy. He's walking and he has this crooked cane that he carries around with him. And in a puddle to the left of him, he hears a sound. And it's a little baby bird. He picks it up and it's showering, it's pouring. And this little bird, he covers it in his cloak and says, "Hey, little one, you're safe now." You could imagine that, couldn't you? You could visualize this entire scene, couldn't you? That's your mind's eye. Now, you don't have to visualize other people's stories. You can make that story and visualize it yourself in your own mind. When you do that, you're actually putting in the reps. When you do that, you're putting in the reps. And this is a technique which is used in sports all the time. Elite level coaches, mediocre coaches don't do this, but elite level coaches do this all the time, especially in tennis and golf. They will teach the correct form to their athletes and ask the athlete to visualize the form, not even actually physically do it. Just imagine what muscles are contracting and how the wind blows across your forearm as you strike the ball. Visualize it, right? And this is very common in tennis. You can actually visualize the ball coming in across the net, taking a bounce, twang, and you see the ball go in the exact trajectory that you had charted out for it. You can use this for music. You can use this for public speaking. So I actually do mental rehearsals for these videos and these lectures. I do 3 mental rehearsals. One immediately after I conceptualize and kind of script out my lecture. Second, at any random point in the day. And the third, right before I sleep. Why do this? It's because it tells your REM sleep mind what to dream about. And in your dreams, you run through the scenario like 500,000 times. So basically, I have like a 500,000 or 5,000 reps before I even give this lecture, which is why I'm able to do it with relative ease and fluidity. I don't have to be sat there or I don't have to consult notes. I have no notes around me right now. So that's mental rehearsals. You can use it for practically anything. Life-changing technique. Highly recommend you use it. Now the question is, like, why should you be brainwashing yourself anyway? Well, I'll tell you this, that everybody's brainwashed. The only question is who's brainwashing you and what they're brainwashing you with. Even the great men of history have been brainwashed. Alexander was brainwashed by his mother into believing that he was semi-immortal, divine, general. And he manifested that in real life, didn't he? He truly believed himself to be great and immortal. He would lead the charge from the front. He was the first man to charge into enemy lines every time. His companions, he had this elite cavalry called the companion cavalry. They would try to race him and get there first, but they couldn't. Alexander was always number one guy on the battlefield. Napoleon brainwashed himself. And he did so. He was living in the island of Corsica, which is like a poor little island off the coast of France. And Frenchmen actually, they despise or, they see Corsicans as beneath them. When Napoleon was in Corsica, he would used to imagine war games and strategies. If Corsica was invaded by a foreign force, what would he do? Where would he place the cannons? What would be the arc of fire? Where would he place his battalions? Where would he place his ships and everything? And of course, when he became a general, he had already put in 1,000, 5,000, 10,000 reps before commanding his first battle. So if the great men of history brainwashed themselves, I can do that. You can do that. Everybody should be doing that. And that brings us to the next technique, which I'm going to share with you, which is the art of future sight. So future sight is an advanced version of the mental rehearsal. Future sight, you're not practicing a given skill. You are instead practicing the version of yourself that you're going to become in a year or two's time. For me personally, I manifest, or I wouldn't say manifest, I imagine the 30-year-old version of myself. Every morning after I do the 3 S's, so my morning routine is ultra simple. Sunshine, salts, which is electrolytes, and shower. Shower, salt, and sunshine. After I get these 3, my morning routine is basically done. I'll sit down outside on a porch chair and I visualize the version of myself when I'm 30 years of age. I see my palms are calloused due to the weightlifting. I can see my forearms are big. I can feel that my neck is thicker. I can feel that my voice is more deep. I can feel I have grown out my hair. I can feel that I have a beard because at this point my military contract would be done and I actually have a beard. I can imagine this version of myself. His ability to speak is, unparalleled. He has perfect enunciation. He can command the room. He can tell these stories which are gripping and emotionally resonant. He has this voice that commands the room. People actually listen to him. They want to listen to him. Starting to pour out here, boys. That's the version of myself that I need to be right now. Essentially, what I'm doing is I'm bringing the version which I will be to the present. So, how does one do this? One does this by focusing on the details. What does your hands look like? What does your mind feel like, most importantly? So, I visualize the 30-year-old version of myself's mind being like a lake, placid, glacial, calm. But when there's something to do, a task to be achieved, 100% focus, like a laser cutting through steel. That's the mind which I want to have. Just as you put in the reps in the gym to improve your muscles, you put in reps in your mind to improve your mind. And finally, we have the final technique, which is lucid dreaming. Is a weird technique, and I'm not going to go into it too deeply in this video. Tomorrow's lecture is going to be lucid dreaming, because lucid dreaming has risks. It has risks involved. The other three techniques which I showed you, anybody can do it. You can do it how many ever times you want. There's no risks. It's all benefit. But lucid dreaming is something which I used to do. I stopped doing for a long time, and I'm starting again right now. So I'll explain why and the risks and the rewards. So lucid dreaming, for those who don't know, is the art and skill of able to control your dreams. You can actually dream about the thing which you want to get good at and do the reps in your dreams. So Tim Ferriss actually was the one who introduced me to this. Tim Ferriss actually says that he got good at wrestling because he used to practice wrestling in his dreams. And it's true, man. You practice the thing in your dreams and it carries over to real life. They did experiments about this too, so it's not like just me making some stuff up. The actual scientific literature does exist. I'll go into the exact techniques in the lecture tomorrow, so if you want to visit that, then you absolutely should. It's a powerful technique. It has some risks, but if you're mature enough to use it correctly, it can be extremely powerful. I'm using lucid dreaming right now to get good at speaking without edits, like speaking without relying on cuts and AI generated graphics to get a good video. So that's lucid dreaming. I'm going to talk about it in detail tomorrow, and I have a challenge for you. All these lectures, they are not free. There is a fee to be paid in the effort that you put in. The challenge for today is choose one of the first three techniques. Either you're choosing Logos, mental rehearsal, or the future sight. And what you're going to do is you're going to enact that technique, and you are going to give us a report of your experience with that. So if you're on YouTube, you can leave a comment saying this is the technique I used and this is what I learned. If you're on Carl's Country Club, do it inside the community instead. Finally, yesterday's lesson was one on purpose. If you want to watch that, I'll have the title pop up. If you are struggling to find your duty and your destiny, that is the lecture you want to watch. All right, boys, I'll see you next one.